Assalamu alaikum. I am Ahmed Mohammed, the litigation director for the New York chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, the nation's largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy organization. And you are watching CAIR Talk. And I'm broadcasting out of my living room here in Queens. This program was created to provide regular updates and resources to the New York Muslim community relating to the COVID-19 pandemic. And I want all of you who are watching tonight to take a quick moment and follow our page. So go ahead and like us, follow us so that you can continue to get these regular updates from us and to continue supporting us during these difficult times. Now, tonight's episode is the 9th episode in the series, and we have a very special episode. It's an international episode where we have one of our guests coming to us live from Canada. And as you can see in the screen before you, we have a host of faces that are all very, very familiar to the CAIR-NY family. They've all been at one point or another either a member of the CAIR-NY team or past interns. So we're extremely delighted to invite to tonight's episode of CAIR Talk our past interns and to figure out what have they been up to since they have left us and how they were doing during this COVID-19 crisis. So without further ado, welcome everyone to CAIR Talk. Let's go ahead and go around the room, the virtual room here, and kind of introduce each of you. And we'll start with the top right corner here or top left. Amel, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hi, Ahmed. Thank you so much for introducing us and for giving us that introduction. It's so nice to see all of your faces, of course, familiar, loved faces. My name is Amel Tabitha. I'm a Palestinian Muslim American. I live in Brooklyn, New York. I'm a second-year law student at CUNY School of Law. And yeah, I was a past intern at CAIR-NY last summer after my first year of law school. And that's sort of how I got involved with CAIR-NY and met all of these wonderful people.
Great. Well, we're happy to have you, and we enjoyed having you last summer.
Thank you.
We're glad that you've kind of come back here. We have this opportunity to see you and kind of get an update on what you've been up to. And we're going to get more information from you. Before we do that, let's go through the rest of the room. Sarah, welcome. How are you and how have you been?
Thank you for having me. I've been good. I feel like I've never left because I see you guys so often and in events. When people ask me, what did you do over the summer? I tend to use the present tense that I still work with CAIR. But yeah, so I'm a senior at Barnard. I should be graduating this semester. Just taking classes from home in New York, Queens, living with my family. Congratulations.
We're confident that you're gonna, be able to graduate, even though there is a crisis that's unfolding. I'm sure that, your school will be able to figure things out, and we hope that your online courses are doing well. I want to introduce Hannah, who's got a wonderful flag in the background to the show. Hannah, welcome.
Salam, guys. Thank you for having me. It's very nice to be in this space again. This reminds me of The Office, but it's not really The Office. But anything close to you guys is a nice thing. I'm Hannah Tawfi. I live in Brooklyn. I was the outreach intern at CAIR New York from April to December. I actually just recently left. And I wish I never left, but spring semester got really hectic, and I had to just focus on school. And now with this whole coronavirus epidemic thing or pandemic thing that's going on, it's very, very hard to focus on classes and focus on this online system that we're having right now. So I'm just trying to go through the motions. I'm also a senior at City College, so inshallah I'm trying to graduate, so we'll see what happens.
Inshallah. We'll pray for you and wish you the best, and hopefully that you get the positive outcome that you're looking for. I want to go down the bottom here to our brother Hussam. Hussam, welcome to the show. How have you been?
Alhamdulillah, thank you, Ahmed, for inviting me. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I'm Hussam Khalid from Yemen. I was a legal intern in CAIR for a couple of months over the past summer. It was actually my first ever internship, which I enjoyed very thoroughly. Like Hannah said, it was The Office, and as my internship started, I had just finished watching the show. So I was still I was trying to see how much of it would be actually we would be living in through. It was a great experience.
Well, for anybody that's watching who is wondering whether it's worth it to intern at the CAIR-New York office, and you are a fan of The Office, the actual TV show, the answer is yes. So go ahead and sign up. And then, of course, we can't forget about Zoe. Zoe, how are you? And how are you doing right now?
I'm good. I'm home from college, which is weird, but it's good to be back in New York. I'm a junior. I worked at CAIR-New York as a legal services intern over the summer. And I had an amazing experience. I feel like I know everyone in the office so well. And I want to echo Sarah that I literally use we now when I still talk about CAIR-New York all the time. And I'm always trying to get people that I know to come work for CAIR-New York. So it's just a phenomenal experience. And I'm glad to be talking with all of you guys right now.
Well, thank you for everything you've done and for being with us tonight. And of course, last but not least, is my co-host for the evening and actually current colleague, Kay. Please welcome, introduce yourself.
Hi, assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for introducing all of us. Yes, my name is Kay Musawe, and I'm the outreach director currently for CAIR-New York. And I have the pleasure of being here today and to chat with all of you guys. Really miss all of your faces, but of course we text and Instagram each other a lot. Hope you guys are staying safe and healthy, and we can get to chat a little and know what's going on and how is your current academic status, or are you guys going to graduate or not going to graduate? Because I'm going to law school inshallah this year, and I'm terrified not knowing if it's going to be online or how it's going to work. So just to share some, eventful insights.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this pandemic subsides in the short future. I do want to say, at the very top of this broadcast, we mentioned that this was an international show. Kay, how is Canada? How are you doing? How's the pandemic there as opposed to, the craziness that we see here in the United States?
So Windsor is at the border between Windsor and Michigan. So there's a border, of course, and it's 20 minutes away by car. I'm a dual citizen, but unfortunately, because of what's going on, they stop people coming in or out. So unless you're going for a necessity, if you're going for a job that has to do with paramedics or pharmacist or nurse or any of the medical fields, they really won't let you cross, and they will probably pull you over and you will get questioned, and it's a hassle. Same thing coming into the Canada side. But currently in Windsor, there are probably 5 to 6 cases. A couple of people came from Colombia and they had tested positive, and a couple are nurses in Michigan and they live here, and they also tested positive. So it's really not bad, but also here it's a ghost town. No one's leaving their house unless it's extremely important. And I believe yesterday or the day before they passed some laws, legislation saying that if you leave your house and you get pulled over and you don't have any justification, you can face up to probably $750 to $1,000 fine, or probably maybe time in jail, just to get people off the streets and make sure they don't go outside.
Look, I think that strict measures are needed here, and following what the CDC guidelines are here in this country. And it's sobering to hear that where you're at right now, there has not been a rash of cases. We hope that it remains that way, and that you and your family remain to be safe. As everyone can see here, we're all in our homes. We're all practicing social distancing. And that's a good thing, because what we want to do is to flatten this curve, to make sure that our colleagues, our community members, all New Yorkers, everyone around the country and the world practice social distancing so that we can, beat this COVID-19 crisis. I want to switch gears real quick and talk a little bit about all of your times with CAIR-New York. I obviously remember it very fondly. And so we want to give an opportunity for everyone that's listening to kind of hear about the amazing work that each of you contributed to, especially over the summer where we did so many amazing things. We were made to seem as if our staff was so big because of the amazing volunteers that we had. Sarah, why don't you explain to us, maybe a particular project or a case that you worked on that you felt to be, extremely important?
You're muted, Sada.
I think Sarah is trying to tell us she wants a second to think about it. So I'm going to go to Hassam, who I know is always ready. Hassam, why don't you tell all of our viewers about a particular matter that you worked on with us that you can publicly share with them, and why you found it to be enlightening for you.
So a particular matter that I cannot forget was the one where we had a press conference at, I believe it was One Police Plaza, and I show up and I find out that the victim whose case we've been working on was actually my classmate's brother. I used to go to City Tech between 2016 and 2018, and I had a friend named Enes. And after I left, like a year after I left and transferred colleges, and the summer came, I was interning for CAIR, and we had been working on a case where I think he was a 16-year-old Muslim, was physically assaulted. He had black eyes. He had to go to the hospital. And then we go and we do this press conference, and his brother shows up and he's holding a sign, and I'm thinking he's just showing up for solidarity. But it turns out that it was actually the victim's brother. And it just it put into perspective how what we see on social media, all these cases, all these hate crimes that are so distant from us, despite it being from the Muslim community, it literally it made it personal. It made it more personal to me.
Oh, that's amazing. I think that's an amazing lesson to kind of take from all of this, is that, these cases, sometimes they may seem like they live on social media, but they take place right here in our communities. And here at CAIR New York, we work on so many cases, such a huge variety of cases, that sometimes, until we meet those individuals in person to kind of see that connection that we already have with them on a personal level. That's an amazing detail to kind of bring back up. And I'm sure your friend was, extremely, excited to see you and hopeful that you were working on his case. So thank you for that. Hannah, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the work that you did? I know that, unlike some of the other interns here, your work was done outside of the legal department, which is extremely important. A lot of the times, a lot of the work that we do is amplified and is, supported by and taken to a whole new level because of, some of the other departments' work and resources that are put into it.
Yeah, so I was the outreach intern. So that basically meant that I was managing all social media. I was the liaison between CAIR New York and all other organizations that we were working with in the community. So it was mostly social media. It was mostly if a press release needed to be written, I would write that. Emails just back and forth between everybody. And one of the biggest things, I worked for CAIR, I feel more than the other interns that are on this panel. And I think the thing that was the biggest role that we had was the gala. And it's crazy to be behind the scenes and do all the work that goes into mashallah, it turned out to be a success. And it was a beautiful gathering that we all had. And just to be I think it was from September to December where we were working on it. And just to see the pressure and to be behind the scenes and to see how much work was actually put into it, whether that would be gathering speakers or the budget or just the little ins and outs that went with later producing such a beautiful thing. That was my biggest thing that I took away from working with CAIR New York. And alhamdulillah for the opportunity, and inshallah when this all goes back to normal, I hope to continue working with CAIR. So we'll see, inshallah.
Awesome. Sarah Ali, you wanna jump in? Someone unmute Sarah Ali.
Oh, sorry about that. I started speaking.
No, you're totally fine.
I muted it. One case that I worked well, I contributed with, and Zoe was the lead intern on it, was the Fatu case. For me, that was very important because as a hijabi Muslim, these are fears that we have, and just helping someone who had been brutally attacked and being on the front lines and making sure they get justice was something that I was very passionate about, and I think it was very meaningful.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. Zoe, I know you're going to talk about the Fatu case because that was your little baby that you worked extremely hard on and you put all your effort into.
Yeah, so the Fatu case was actually, I think that she called in my very first week as an intern. So that was just really a really pivotal case for me. And I had the opportunity to spend the entire day with her and her fiance, now husband, and Ahmed and her family. The day that we just had a huge day of press conferences and meetings with the DA the day after her case came to our attention, which was that she had been attacked brutally by a group of teenagers who hurled Islamophobic slurs at her getting off of her bus stop. And I think that that was such an important first case for me because I could see the toll that it takes on the victims and the strength that is required of our clients and the victims in advocating for themselves and coming to CAIR-NY. And it really helped me understand that the public service that is happening in the work that CAIR-NY does is not only the work that we're doing in the office, but is really public service by our clients and the victims themselves. Just seeing how much strength and how articulate Fatu was in perpetually having to tell her story because the NYPD refused to take that role on itself in investigating the case. And I think that was also a really great example of how much CAIR-NY really encourages its interns to take on ownership over projects and over the work that CAIR-NY does. You're really treated like an employee, not just like some intern who goes and gets coffee. So I was really trusted to, form a relationship with the client, to work on the rally that we planned for the next week, to follow through with that case through the rest of the summer. And I think that set an amazing tone for the rest of my experience at CAIR-NY.
Thank you so much for sharing. Last but not least, Amal.
So I had the honor of working on a range of different cases during my time at CAIR-NY. I had experience with, achieving remedies and relief for my clients through administration, also through advocacy. But I think probably a case that I'll never forget about was when I worked with a client who was experiencing heightened scrutiny while traveling. And he had been traveling for the course of several years, always received heightened scrutiny, was always pulled aside for secondary screening, was always heavily questioned. And it was incredibly frustrating because, as American Muslims, we know what that's like. It costs, it's a burden financially, it's a burden emotionally. It's a struggle for people with families who are traveling with kids. So he was experiencing issues for several years. And I worked with an attorney that was working at CAIR-NY during my time there to file a complaint and really just exhaust every kind of remedy we could administratively, but also advocate for him on his behalf. And by the end of the summer, he was able to actually travel for the first time in maybe 5 years without receiving any secondary screening. So it felt like a huge accomplishment because it made a huge difference on his life. And I really got to see the case through from the beginning until the end. And I'll never forget that case or that client.
Well, Amal, thank you for that hard work. I can tell all of you that, a sign of a really great intern where they have had an impactful time with us is that when our clients ask about you afterwards. All of the clients that you have mentioned, all of you have mentioned, have asked about you at one time or another. The travel client that Amal has talked about has, thanked Amal for her work, has asked about her, where is she at? And we have to realize that sometimes for us, it's a client. we're helping them with their ordeal. For the clients themselves, they have been dealing with this struggle for sometimes years upon years, sometimes decades. And when they finally come to us and we're able to help them, it's that realization that they're no longer alone. And that's really important. And I know for a fact that a lot of the work that all of you spoke about could not have gotten done if you weren't there. So thank you so much for all of you for taking the time and the effort that you all put into CAIR-NY. I want to shift gears really quickly and kind of discuss your future plans. One of my goals is to convince every single person that walks into CAIR-NY to say, you know what, I'm going to go to law school and become an attorney. Because there's something that I have noticed in the Muslim community is that we don't have enough attorneys, right? We don't have enough communication directors, enough TV personalities. The liberal arts are being neglected. Now, something we do have a lot of, and it is coming, to be a beautiful thing during this, pandemic, is that we have a lot of doctors. We have a lot of pharmacies within the Muslim community, and thank God for that, right? Because without them, New York City and this country would be shorthanded in the healthcare industry. Just to give you guys a little bit of, statistics, in New York City alone, Muslim doctors make up 9% of the doctors in the city. Think about that, the total population of the city versus the Muslims who live in it. And when it comes to pharmacists around the city, they make up about 13% of the pharmacists here in New York City. So, Muslims right now, especially the healthcare workers, are on the front lines fighting this pandemic. But nonetheless, the future will come and we need more lawyers. So let's take a quick gander. Who here is going to be a lawyer in the future? All right. There you go. Great. I think Hussam is sleeping.
I think his camera might have froze.
Okay. But inshallah, Hussam is a young man. I think he's a sophomore right now. So inshallah, we have a couple of more years, to convince him to join our ranks. And of course, Hannah, I know you're going to do something amazing as well. And I hope that you're able to graduate on time. So let's talk a little bit about what everyone is doing during the COVID-19 crisis. How is everyone adjusting? I know for me personally, I'll go first. It's been really difficult. I've been stuck indoors now for, I think, 16, 17 days. And, the want to be outside and get some sun and walk is extremely something that nags at me on a daily basis. How have each of you coped with it? And Hannah, I'm looking at you. I'll start with you first. Tell me, how has this affected your life and how are you coping?
Well, I feel like it's kind of a negative positive kind of thing. For, on a negative basis, I'm actually home alone because my dad, alhamdulillah, he went to Egypt right before everything got crazy. So he's safe over there because Egypt hasn't really been going through it like we have out here in New York. So it's lonely. It's really lonely. I've been having to fight the urge to stay home because I am not a homebody. Like, I'm on campus for like 12 hours, more than 12 hours at a time. And like, just being home has been so difficult. But, alhamdulillah, I'm trying to maintain, I'm trying to, just have a schedule, which isn't working out because my sleep schedule is crazy. I sleep at like 7, I wake up at 2, like everything is all over the place. Everything is going in reverse. But in terms of like health anxiety, my anxiety has been through the roof because I feel like, anytime like I cough, just like a slight cough, like I usually get, my allergies are really bad once spring comes in. So like any little thing that happens, I've been like, oh my God, like what if I have the virus? Even though I've been at home for a while now and like I haven't been in contact with anybody, but it's still like in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm coughing. Okay, I have a sore throat. Like, what's next? Like, is this gonna be bad or? And alhamdulillah, it hasn't been bad. It's just allergies. But in terms of like, I feel like alhamdulillah, like I've been trying to work on like my spirituality and I've tried to like get more knowledge. I've been reading a lot more, alhamdulillah. Just in terms of like that stuff, I'm trying to like work on. But everything else, I can't focus on school anymore. Like, I'm just trying to graduate, and inshallah we do that. But other than that, I don't know what's going on. So yeah.
Inshallah. You know, you bring up a really good point about the mental health aspects of being stuck at home in isolation, especially for individuals who, you know, are so accustomed to being out and about. I know for one thing, Hussam, what has happened to your skateboard? You know, like, have you been kicked out of the house?
This is very emotional.
Are you trying to skateboard inside the house now?
I actually do. So on the kitchen, so the whole apartment is carpeted with the exception of the kitchen. So like from the door to the till I hit the oven or something, and then my mom comes out with the belt. That's as far as I went with the penny board. Like Hannah, like she's always on campus. I'm always outside. I try to escape all the time. And surprisingly, it hasn't been much of a problem for me. I thought it would take me longer to get used to, but it was an easy transition for some reason. I lived. My mother actually was overseas in Malaysia for 5 years, and actually she was one of CAIR's clients while I was an intern. So I worked on my own case while I was an intern at CAIR, and alhamdulillah, she finally got to America on December 2019. So
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. So from one side, I'm not going outside, but from the other side, I'm like catching up after 5 years with my mother and my two siblings. One of them was with my mom in Malaysia, and the other one was in Yemen. And there's both of them are in high school. So I'm on Zoom talking to my professors, and they're like in the other room or in the kitchen talking to their teachers at the same time. It gets hectic, but it's happening. We're getting used to it.
That's a
Thank you so
beautiful
much
way
for
to look
sharing.
at it.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Thank you for sharing. Sarah Ali.
This quarantine helped me realize that I didn't appreciate myself as much. I used to think I was a homebody and I wasn't doing enough. But I realized like I miss badminton. I was on a badminton team. I was working at the library. I was doing so many things. So now being home, I realized that, okay, like you were doing a lot of things. I'm using this break as to catch up, to continue studying. I was motivated through Amal's Instagram stories where she works out in her backyard. So I realized I have a bike, like the working out bike. So I just pull it out in my garage and I work out for like 30 minutes. As for the sleeping schedule, I think we're all on a similar sleeping cycle. I do have 3 younger siblings who are active throughout the day. So for me to do my homework or any of my readings to actually focus, I also have immigrant parents. So, you know, those WhatsApp videos can get pretty loud sometimes. So I do my work from like midnight to like Fajr. And then when everybody else wakes up, I go to sleep. Yeah, what else?
Thank you for sharing. Amal, I guess we're hearing about your workout videos. I'm a fan myself, of course. Other than your amazing workout videos, I know I see your mother's cooking show is also now on your Instagram.
I'm
What else are you doing?
find ways to stay occupied. Really, it's like majority of, for me, the stress and anxiety is really around my parents. You know, since older people are at such a higher risk. My dad still works because he owns like a small local business in the neighborhood. So I'm just worried about them getting sick. So that my anxiety has been around that, really, not even like myself, like getting sick myself, but really like making sure that my parents aren't getting sick and that elderly in our neighborhood are being taken care of. But I've been really just trying to find the silver lining through all of this, trying to find ways to think of this period as like a period of reflection, like, okay, what can I be working on? Also, like kind of working on my spirituality, trying to read books that I say I'm going to read all year, but never make the time for, making sure I'm still working out and recording it for Instagram to hold myself accountable. And yes, I've been cooking a lot with my mom. I've definitely been spending a lot of time with my family, which has been like a great advantage throughout this whole mess. But yeah, alhamdulillah, just like trying to take it each day at a time, control and manage the anxiety and make the most of this time at home that we have.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Sitting next to Amal and like having her after this internship, I take so many positive things from her. I've been drinking water, I work out, I like try to be vegan, but yeah, gives me like health advice.
You're so
Thank you
cute.
so much for sharing. Zoe, I know you're now back in New York, and you're no longer in, sorry, am I, hello?
Rhode Island.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm still on. I know you're now back in New York. How has that changed for you, and what are you doing?
So I have right now, all three of my brothers are also home. So it's been busy. Like everyone said, a lot of like juggling the Zoom calls for class because everyone's in school. So this is actually, this is like prime real estate, this room I'm in right now. It's like where everyone wants to be because it's kind of closed off from the rest of the house. It's good for video calls. And I've just been trying to keep busy, keep a normal schedule in my classes. Where I am, I'm not in the city, and we can still like go out once a day to just like run on the trails and try to, as long as you're staying, 6 feet away from everybody else. And keep trying. I've been trying to keep organizing, even though, obviously we can't be canvassing, we can't be going door to door, but it's still 2020. It's still Census Day today. Trying to make sure that we keep the energy going and stay ahead of the curve on doing things digitally.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Personally, I think I'm doing almost what everyone else is doing here, just a little bit of everyone. Their ideas, like Emma, yes, I'm doing exercises outside. Of course, she's motivating me and trying to cook some vegan food. In my family, we don't believe in that, so it's a little difficult. And they're much more supportive than I expected them. Sharing time with family, spending more time with family. Also got the bike out of the garage. Have to remove the dust because it's been buried there for years. Got it for show only. But yeah, I mean, it's been pretty difficult, but it's nice Monday through Friday because I do have a set work schedule. I know after 5, like I have like a set schedule from 10 till 5, and then afterwards it's working out and spending time with the family, and I'm getting time to catch up on what's going on and what's the news back home and spiritually as well. So thank you all for sharing. I want to just shift a little bit back to your internship. When I interview applicants for any semester, I just make sure to ask, what is your expectation coming into CAIR? And you do have an exit interview at the end when you leave. I just want to ask, when you came to join CAIR-New York, your expectations and your growth, did you feel like you left CAIR-New York with the expectation you had in mind? Did you grow as an individual? Did you gain the knowledge you expected and the experience and get the training you came to CAIR-New York for? We're going to start with the brother Hossam.
So I actually started pretty late with the internship because I was not sure if I was going to stay for the summer in New York. There was a chance that I would be going to Malaysia to see my mom again. So upon starting, I did not actually, for some reason, like I said, it all seems so distant from what we see on social media, from like the crimes, the victims and whatnot. It's hard to imagine, like I never pictured working one-on-one with the people who actually go through that stuff and picking up the phone and listening to what they're going through and writing it down. Like being at that fundamental level was like, it was actually life-changing. And I think the most important skill that I got out of the internship was learning how to listen. And Ahmed kept telling me, like, just try to empathize with them. Like a lot of these people are coming out of trauma. They're traumatized out of the situations that they had. And coming from an Arab background, I personally know people that have gone through worse experiences, but did not muster enough courage to share or reach out to organizations such as CAIR-New York. And like being there at the office, I actually went and talked to those families, and some of them actually reached out to other organizations for help, such as MAS, and some of them reached out to Muslims Giving Back. It wasn't just hate crimes and stuff that had to do with CAIR. Some of them needed financial assistance. Some of them needed like help with the food. Some of them needed to move, like a new apartment renovation and stuff like that. So being able to hear people that are brave enough to share their stories encouraged me to be brave, to encourage other families to be brave enough to reach out to other organizations as well.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Hussam. Can we go to Zoe next? And everyone, we're a little short on time. Do your best to keep it short if you can.
So I came to CAIR-NY expecting to get great training in grassroots legal advocacy, and I definitely got that. Like I said before, being able to really take ownership and see cases all the way through gave me so much more experience than I would have got at any other internship. And in fact, like I was even able to take on some legal tasks that and learn more about legal ropes that a lot of people don't get the chance to do until they've already been to law school. But I think more than anything, what CAIR-NY really gave me that I didn't expect was the personal growth. I learned so much from both the clients and the CAIR-NY family and staff, how to be a better ally. I really feel like I got to know everyone in the office. As everyone said, I learned how to empathize better when I was listening to clients. It was also really amazing to be at a faith-based organization. I feel like one of the things I tell everyone about CAIR-NY is that I'm not Muslim, I'm Jewish, but I don't think my Judaism has ever been more celebrated than in the CAIR-NY space. So that was really phenomenal.
Thank you, Zoe.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Amal, I know you want to go next.
I do. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat. So as a first-year law student, as any first-year law student, there's this common understanding that your first summer internship is going to be one that's based heavily in legal research. You know, as a first-year law student, you haven't had that much exposure to working with clients, working with, directly with cases. So my expectation was that I would just really be working at an organization, doing legal research, helping as much as I could, but primarily through research. But I started at CAIR-NY and my expectations were exceeded. Like I had such a great exposure to direct client services, which I wasn't really expecting. I got to work with clients, see cases through, handle my own caseload. I also, of course, got to do legal research and build on those skills. I received so much exposure to not just advocacy, which, is such a huge part of my identity. It's like a social justice lawyer in training, but also, figuring out how to receive relief for clients, through organizing and advocating, but also through administrative means or, just like uplifting clients. And my internship at CAIR-NY really gave me the tools to be able to work now with clients. Like as a second-year law student, I've been doing a lot of client work at a clinic at my school. And I feel like I've had such a leg up because of my experience at CAIR-NY. The clinic that I work with does a lot of work and support and advocacy for the same community, the Muslim American community. So whenever, I have a new client or a new case, I sort of already know what to do based on the facts of the case. I'm like, okay, this sort of sounds like something that I learned about at CAIR-NY, or this sort of resembles a case that I worked on at CAIR-NY. So it absolutely exceeded my expectations. It was so great to get to know and grow so close to the community of Muslim Americans, like at CAIR-NY, the CAIR-NY family, and just in Queens. Being like a Brooklyn-based girl, I didn't know about this whole other community in like Queens and the Bronx. And yeah, just like learning, echoing Hussam and Zoe's point, learning how to sympathize and empathize with clients, really becoming a better listener, and just working on client communication skills, which is so important as a lawyer.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to give Sarah Ade an opportunity to share what she has to say. But before I give the mic over to you or let you speak, I do remember when you first joined, I believe either it was Ahmed or you, someone came to me and told me that other than being a legal service intern, you wanted to volunteer and do more outreach to the Shia community, which I really appreciated. So I know you came with an expectation to get hands-on experience in the legal realm, but also you wanted to do more outreach. So with saying that, I'm going to pass it over to you, and hopefully we did reach expectations. Oh, you're muted.
CAIR actually, my expectations were not just met, but they were exceeded. I wasn't expecting to learn so much. And as Zoe and Hussam and Amal said, that we really got to be close to the clients. And at a point, like, they weren't Ahmed's client, they were my clients. I'm not a lawyer, but they're my clients. And Ahmed allowing us to have that initiative really made me passionate about my work, where I took it home with me. And like, it was Eve, and I was talking to a lady, and I was just like, so how can we help you? Like, I brought her in, and I was like, hey, Ahmed, we can help her. That's why I'm not leaving CAIR. I'm still working with CAIR, even though my internship ended. And that's where I was just like, wait, my community can use CAIR too. And that's where I wanted to be more involved, more long-term. I also appreciate Ahmed as a teacher, as a mentor, because he didn't just like make us work as interns, but he held classes for us where, like, for 30-45 minutes he'll give us law briefings and just give us like a 101 into law school. And that's pretty cool for someone who's just thinking about law school. And it definitely made me, I'm studying for my LSATs right now, so fingers crossed, pray for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And we're absolutely blessed to have amazing interns like you that are devoted and just believe in the mission. I'm going to pass it down to Sister Hannah. Hannah, I know you came in here to do outreach, but mashallah, our organization has a lot of things going on. And of course, we're nonprofit, so we don't believe in busy work. A lot of things overlap, and we make sure that you do get an experience with almost everything that you come into. So if you're coming in for outreach, you'll probably also do development, do some marketing. Hannah, mashallah, she did everything. I could count on Hannah anytime. And I am extremely blessed to supervise her.
Yeah, so Kay, she was an amazing supervisor. She had my back through everything, like whether that would be work-based or personal-based, like she was amazing. So yeah, I came into CAIR-NY with the intention of just like being a better advocate for my community members and just being more involved in my community. I was very involved in my community before I ever got into CAIR-NY, but now it's like being an official part of it in an organization and being that liaison, like I was saying before. And like Kay saying, like I wasn't only outreach, I jumped everywhere. Like when I first came in, they got me right to work during for the Ramadan thing that we were doing. So like as soon as I got in, this was like in April, Ramadan was like a couple weeks away, and we had to like do like Ramadan stuff. So I was working with that. And then when the rest of the legal interns came in, I was actually taking classes, the little classes that Ahmed was giving. I was actually in on that because like as soon as I got into CAIR-NY, I was like, hey, like this law thing might be worth it. So I'm actually still thinking about that. But inshallah, we'll see like where this takes me. But yeah, it was very it exceeded my expectations, just echoing what everybody else said. And alhamdulillah, and these are skills, like I developed skills during my time, especially in terms of like time management. There was a point in time in like maybe October where everything was like very overwhelming, and Kay can attest to this. And I came to her and I was just very anxious, and I was like, I don't think I can handle any of this. I was doing school, CAIR-NY, and I was doing student government, and this was like all new to me because everything was just on my plate, and I never had like 3 major things to do. And of course, I never wanted to give up on any of them. So I ended up taking like a 2-week break, and I came back refreshed, and that was all under the guidance of Kay, alhamdulillah. And here we are now. And inshallah, these are skills that I can use in my future internships or my future jobs. You never know.
Thank you so much for sharing, Hannah. Alhamdulillah, sorry, Ahmed, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was going to head and close us out. But Sister Kay, if you have any last words, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say thank you so much. Honestly, I grew as a person working with all of you, especially each one of you is special. And I learned something from each one of you, that no matter when I leave CAIR-NY, of course, you never end up leaving CAIR-NY, because no matter where I'm at, CAIR is a family that once you're in, you're just locked in. I'm happy to share time and text and call all of you, but I just want to say one last thing. My mission coming into CAIR-NY, everyone that interns with us, in my mind, will leave one day, will become an attorney, whether you want to or not. I feel like even currently we have a development Vista, and she probably gonna come into CAIR-NY thinking she's gonna become an attorney. But my goal is to have her leave, and now I gave her my LSAT books and she's studying. because we need more amazing people like all of you to become attorneys. That's all I gotta say.
Now, I want to echo what Kay said. If the folks at LSAT are watching this, call us, sponsor, because it seems that as soon as someone walks through that door, we're giving them an LSAT prep book.
Yep.
But we do it because we care so much about our community, and we're really
Absolutely.
grateful and thankful for all of you. All of you are amazing individuals. We wish you nothing but the best in your future endeavors. And you guys will always be in our prayers and thoughts. But I want to echo something that, Sister Zoe mentioned when she was speaking, and that today is National Census Day. And that's really important. At CAIR-NY, we were always pushing civic engagement, being involved, doing your civic duty. And right now, all of us have an opportunity to do our civic duty. And that is, we have to do the census, we have to go online, we have to complete it, and we have to count. That means you count yourself, your kids, your roommates, your parents, whoever it is that lives with you, regardless of their immigration status, needs to be counted. So please do so. Go online to the census website and take the census. Now, this Friday is National Muslim Census Day, which means that Muslim organizations like CAIR around the country are going to be pushing for the Muslim community to do the census on Friday. So inshallah, be on the lookout for that. We are going to do a webinar here about the census on Friday. And tomorrow, we're going to cover a topic that all of you touched on. You weren't asked about it, but you touched upon it, which is mental health, right? We're going to do a little bit of mental health and domestic violence, and how individuals who are in domestic violence situations are dealing and coping with the COVID-19 and what resources are available out there for them. So, if you haven't tuned in or you don't have any plans tomorrow for 7 p.m. or 3 p.m. Eastern, please check back at our CAIR-NY Facebook page and give it a listen. I'm sure that there's going to be really important information for everyone. But that's it for tonight's episode of CAIR Talk. I want to thank everybody for coming on board. I want to encourage everyone to continue social distancing. If we work together, we're going to beat this. And inshallah, in a very quick, short amount of time, we'll be back together and we can enjoy each other's company in person. Until then, thank you all for coming on with us, and please have a good evening and stay safe.
Thank you, Ahmed.
Thank you, Ahmed.
Thank you, guys.
Assalamualaikum.
Salam.